now we come to the portion of the service before we do our Bible study that we talk about news and end times and Bible prophecy as we do each week. And this is update number 51. And we do want to welcome our online audience and all the subscribers around the world. And thank you for joining us and partnering with us. And again, this isn't just for head knowledge. This is, more importantly, as we said last week, a catalyst for action, a catalyst to witness to people as well with the information. The amount of discussions that we've been able to see, and from what I've heard from others that are witnessing and talking to people about end times events. So it's a great witnessing tool as well. But it is our hope and prayer that through these updates it becomes a blessing to you, but more importantly, draws you closer to Jesus and into the Word. Before we get into the update today, I need to make a correction from last week's update. There was some information that I saw in the initial report, and that's why I shared what I shared. But through this week, some other information came out that information was false. It was the update that was on the Christian pastor in Vermont that was sentenced to 1 year in prison by refusing to marry gay couple. And through the sources initially, it seemed like it was a credible story. But then Wednesday, I was reading through Christianity Today, and there's a column in there by Ed Stetzer, very well known. He's the president of Lifeway Research, and they do a lot of investigation. They do a lot of church planting stuff, consulting, etc. But he wrote an article on there. And again, it's one of those great headlines. Again, don't believe everything that you read on the internet. And we know that. And we believe that. But again, when we mentioned the source, it was from NBC News. But there was also another additional link within that website. So it wasn't the real NBC News website. But again, this story wouldn't surprise us if it was true. So that's why it's so believable, because we see the way the court systems are going. So it was credible. It seemed like it would have been. But from further investigation, the story was false. So I just wanted to clear that up to make sure that people have their information correct. So there we have it. Now, moving forward in today's update, as we mentioned last week, the first item that we talked about at that time was the Tempel Institute had a big announcement. And again, we didn't know what that was that Sunday morning until later on that afternoon. And that was where they said that they found and they have the red heifer. The red heifer is a huge component to this new, the third temple that has to be built. And the ordinance of the red heifer has detailed requirements which must be met. So if there's any like a hair on this red heifer that isn't red, it's invalid. So it has to hit very strict details. Those details are outlined in Numbers chapter 13. Many others were translated orally to Moses and passed down through the rabbis throughout generations until the present day. So they still have a lot of these traditions that they had way back then. But the heifer must be 3 years old and perfect in redness. And so this is means that the presence, even like we mentioned, a few hairs of other colors, it would render this particular animal invalid. And related for this reason, the red heifer was very expensive to procure. Even its hooves must be red, must be totally free from any physical blemish, whether internal or external. So it has to be one without blemish. In the book of Daniel, there is a reference in chapter 12 that talks about in the last days that many shall be purified and made white. And so there's a reference to the purification ritual which takes place back from Numbers chapter 19. And the imagery here with the blood of the heifer without blemish being sacrificed and the cleansing or the blood cleansing from sin is a foreshadowing at that time of the blood of Jesus Christ, which cleanses a man from all sin. The Bible does teach in Ezekiel chapter 41 through 45 that one day there will be a temple of God in Jerusalem. And so Jesus also mentioned in Matthew 24, talking about the signs of the times in the last days, and there's going to be the abomination of desolation, which is where the Antichrist goes in there and desecrates the temple. So for that to occur, there obviously has to be a temple being there in Jerusalem. And so many have anticipated the birth of the red heifer. There's been other examples over the last several decades, but it never really matched up to the one that was blameless like the one that they have right now, according to Old Testament law. So the red heifer would have to be sacrificed for the water of cleansing used in the temple. So when the red heifer is born, which is very, very unusual for this to happen, it might be a sign that the temple will soon be rebuilt. And so they're ready to go. They need that peace agreement for the temple to be built. This last week, as some of you probably know, about the Iran nuclear deal. And here's part of the information that comes up with this particular deal, is that the U.S. and the Iranian officials, they confirmed on Thursday, this is out of the freebeacon.com news report, says that no American nuclear inspectors are permitted to enter the country's contested nuclear sites under the parameters reached by the deal within the world powers this week, according to multiple statements by the Iranian and American officials. So under the tenets of this nuclear deal reached in Vienna this last week, the only countries that have diplomatic relations with Iran will be permitted to participate and inspect the teams organized by the International Atomic Energy Agency. So the revelation of this caveat has attracted concern from some of the analysts who maintain that only American experts can be trusted to verify Iran's not cheating on the deal and operating within the nuclear facilities. The admission is the latest of the series of apparent concessions made by the U.S. To Iran under the deal. So portions of the agreement, the promise by the United States to help Iran combat nuclear sabotage and the threats to its program. So under this, again, hey, let's have a deal, but we're going to have other people besides the United States go in and inspect it. Because we can't trust the United States. And again, let's have this deal where we're even parading in the streets, death to America, death to Israel. But we want to have a nuclear deal with you guys. And Susan Rice, who's the national security advisor to Obama, said on an interview, again, the independent American inspector operate from the International Atomic Energy, said that the group is going to do it in behalf of the United States. And so, again, they have to have those normalized relationship with some of the other countries that are okay with terrorist groups like Iran. Even in the BBC report the other day, stating that Obama said that 99% of the world says that this is going to be a good deal. So he's already polled everyone in the world that this is going to be a good deal. But somehow, even people within the Congress, the Speaker of the House, John Boehner, said that given everything that he's read through this deal, because how many of you read through the deal? Not one, right? So how are we going to really know what's really in here? But those who have read through it, they say this: it's a really bad deal so far. It paves the way not only for nuclear Iran, and he goes on to say, it just blows my mind that the administration would even agree to lift the arms and the missile bans. And so he's criticizing lifting the sanctions on the general who supplied the militants with weapons to kill Americans. So it's just from someone and others that have read the deal, they say it's a bad deal. Why would you make such a foolish decision like this? Former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, John Bolton, in an interview that he said on Fox with Greta, he said that the only way to stop Iran from getting the full nuclear weapons is to use military force. And to point out that even Obama has put this on the table, even though he never really agrees or fully wants to go through with those options. So one of the questions is what should Israel do? To which Bolton said, he says, Israel should take action on Israel today before it gets too late. And that could very well be what would take place, a hypothetical situation to create this chaos that's going to happen in the Middle East for not only Psalm 83 to come into play, but also Ezekiel 38 and 39. because you're going to see nuclear stuff and you're going to have the Antichrist rise to power. Hey, let's create peace within Israel. Let's have this contract agreement so that there's no other issues going on. Israel has already, and most people already know these reports, that Israel's already been practicing those long-range flights where it would reach into Iran to bomb and to make it back in time to Israel. So it is a scenario that could very well happen because of this particular deal. It's just creating more of a threat to Israel. And again, Iran has been very clear. They want to wipe Israel off the face of the map. So the debt crisis, just to bring you an updated information on that, on Friday out of the BBC.com, they say that the German parliament had voted in favor of starting negotiations on Greece, their bailout deal. So this would be a third bailout that they're going to occur. So the Greek parliament had already voted in favor of the hard-hitting austere measures required by the Eurozone for a third bailout. On Thursday, the European Central Bank raised the level of emergency funding available to pave the way for the Greek banks, which had been shut for the last several weeks, to be reopened on Monday. The credit controls limit cash withdrawal to $60 or 60 euro a day and gradually increase as the things get better. The Eurozone ministers have also agreed to a $7 billion bridge loan with the European Union wide fund to keep the finances afloat. And again, there's going to be a ripple effect, not only in Europe, but nationwide, worldwide, with these economic crises that are happening. And then on a moral issue and on probably an apostasy issue, this one just kind of does your head in, but a Christian seminary distributes condoms that talk of Christ's second coming. So it's like, are you out of your mind? And it's that whole passage out of, 2 Timothy 3, that people are lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. And again, with all the false teaching and false representation within Christianity exists not only in America but around the world. This isn't a shock, unfortunately. But on a recent example, a free distribution of condoms to the Chicago Theological Seminary, which is an affiliate of the United Church of Christ, and they had a festival the previous week where they those who attended received these condom packages designed with colored images of a rainbow flame and an LGBT variation of their particular school logo on it. So, and above the logo was the Chicago Theological Seminary, Take Two for the Second Coming. And so the text blatantly suggests that Christ's coming, the second coming, relates to one needing more than two condoms for multiple partners. So in other words, a Christian seminary like this is likening the second coming of Christ to gay sex. So, and nothing could be further from biblical truth. Such claims, again, it would be blasphemous, it's heresy, and it's obviously hatred of God and His Word. And again, this is a theological seminary where you're training people to become pastors and missionaries out there, but you start to see how far the nation has gone, even seminaries have gone with this. And there's all throughout the New Testament and Scriptures clearly have the point of view of how this is an abomination. You can still love the sinner, but you hate the sin. Homosexuality, just like adultery, is sin. The Corinthians, Paul urged to flee from sexual immorality. All other sins a person commits outside the body, but whoever commits sexual immorality sins against their own body, according to 1 Corinthians 6:18. Colossians 3:5 says, put to death, therefore, whatever belongs to the earthly nature, your flesh, the sexual immorality, impurity, lust, evil desires, and greed, which is idolatry. Ephesians 5:3 says, but there among you not be a hint of sexual immorality or any kind of impurity or greed, because of these improper for God's holy people. And so the apostles admonish all throughout their ministry to abstain from this type of immorality. Even the Thessalonians, Paul says, walk worthy of the Lord in which you have been called. And Ephesians says, live a life worthy of what you have called and received, at Ephesians 4:1. only an apostate Christian, only in an apostate church would celebrate and engage in gay sex and embracing this. So they want tolerance for people to embrace their sin. They want equality, but it has nothing to do with that. You can still treat people equally. Doesn't mean you do embrace a sinful lifestyle. So an apostasy promotes lies, and it causes individual and societal harm. Genuine Christians should not be promoting these harmful practices. So Jesus Christ's return is infinitely more important and incomparable to a joke printed on a condom package. So genuine Christians who have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, we joyfully and we eagerly wait for His return. But Christians, again, we're instructed to warn others about the return and to let people know as quickly as possible, as irresistibly possible, knowing His return is no laughing matter. So this isn't something that it seems like they're just mocking God, through this particular stunt, if you will. And so as we continue with the signs of the times, we're going to see more of these things develop. More churches go down those roads. We're going to see more natural disasters. The amount of earthquakes that are going on at high levels of magnitude is unbelievable just this last week. The other diseases that are being spread around. So we need to be watchful. We need to be always ready for the return of Jesus Christ and for us to draw closer and closer to Him. Amen? And that concludes today's update.